My husband made me spend my father's inheritance building a wall against our neighbor. He said she was dangerous. He said her little boy was not our problem. He said the wall would protect our marriage, our home, and our peace. For 7 years, I believed him. Then that woman died alone. And at her funeral, her 8-year-old son walked up to me in the rain and placed a folded paper star in my hand. Inside it were 6 words written in blue crayon. My mom said you'd see me. That was when I realized the wall I paid for was never meant to protect me. It was built to hide my husband's son. My name is Sarah Cole. I was 34 years old when I learned that the life I had been living was not a marriage. It was a story my husband wrote for me, and I had been reading my lines perfectly. My husband's name was Ethan Cole. To everyone in Maple Ridge, Ohio, he was the kind of man people trusted before he even finished speaking. He managed insurance claims for a regional company, coached Little League on Saturdays, helped elderly neighbors shovel snow, and always knew exactly when to lower his voice to sound sincere. At church, people called him a good man. At family dinners, his mother called him the rock of this family. At work, he was being considered for a promotion to regional director. At home, he called me sweetheart when he wanted me soft, unreasonable, when he wanted me quiet and emotional, when he wanted me ashamed. For years, I thought those were just the small bruises of marriage. I didn't understand that some men never raise their hands because they have learned how to make words do the hitting. The woman next door was named Marin Doyle. She lived in a little yellow house with cracked porch paint, crooked flower boxes, and a bird feeder that always hung empty by winter. She was 34, the same age as me, but her life looked nothing like mine. She worked mornings at Rosie's Diner off Route 8 and cleaned medical offices at night. Some evenings I would see her come home after 10, still in her diner sneakers, carrying grocery bags in one hand and her sleeping son in the other. Her son's name was Toby. He had brown curls, serious gray eyes, and a silence that made adults uncomfortable. He did speak sometimes, but rarely, and only when he felt safe. Most of the time he folded paper. Stars, cranes, tiny boxes, little boats. He made beautiful things with hands that moved carefully, like he was trying not to disturb the world. For 7 years, Toby lived next door to me. For 7 years, I saw him through cracks in the cedar wall. For 7 years, he tried to reach me. And for 7 years, I looked away. Because Ethan told me to. She's unstable, he said the first month Marin moved in. She watches our windows, he said the second month. She used to know me, he admitted the third month after I caught him staring too long at her driveway. I tried to help her once. She got attached. Then he cried. That was the part that trapped me. Ethan cried at our kitchen table with both hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, telling me Marin had followed him to work, left strange notes on his windshield, and told people they had a connection. I didn't want to scare you, he said, but I think she's obsessed. I remember reaching across the table and taking his hand. My father had died the year before. I was still soft with grief. I wanted safety so badly that I mistook Ethan's fear for honesty. What do we do? I asked. He looked toward the side yard. We build a wall. The cedar wall cost $21,000. Ethan said we needed something tall enough that Marin couldn't watch us. I thought 12 feet seemed extreme. He said extreme is what keeps people alive when normal doesn't work. I signed the check from the account my father left me. My father had fixed furnaces for 32 years. He came home with cracked hands and sore knees and never once complained in front of me. When I turned 18, he opened a savings account in my name and called it my Standing on Your Own 2 Feet fund. I used that money to build a wall around a child. I didn't know that then. Or maybe some buried part of me did know. Maybe that was why I could never look at the wall for too long. The day the workers came, Marin stood in her driveway with baby Toby on her hip. He was less than a year old. Round cheeks, dark curls, one tiny hand gripping the collar of her waitress uniform. I walked over because I wanted to be decent. I'm sorry, I told her. This isn't personal, we just need privacy. Marin looked at me for a long time. There was no anger in her face. That would have been easier. Instead, there was something worse. Pity. Privacy from what she asked. Before I could answer, Ethan called from our porch. Sarah, come here. His voice was calm, too calm. I went back. I told myself good wives support their husbands. I told myself women like Marin could be dangerous. I told myself the baby had nothing to do with me. That afternoon, cedar boards went up one by one, cutting the yard in half. At sunset, I heard Toby crying on the other side. Not a loud cry. A tired baby cry. The kind that reaches into every human instinct and pulls. I moved toward the wall. Ethan caught my wrist. Don't. There's a baby. That's how she gets you. He's crying. She wants you to feel guilty. Don't reward it. His fingers tightened. I looked at the wall. I looked at my husband. And I went inside. That was the first time I abandoned Toby. It would not be the last. Years passed. The wall weathered from honey brown to gray. Maren became the woman next door, then that situation, then a subject no one mentioned unless Ethan brought her up first. At neighborhood cookouts, people stopped inviting her. At church potlucks, Diane Cole, Ethan's mother, would lower her voice and say things like, "Some women create chaos and then call themselves victims." I never asked if she meant Maren. I knew. I just didn't want to know. Diane was the kind of woman who wore cream cardigans, carried homemade casseroles and glass dishes, and could make cruelty sound like wisdom. She posted Bible verses on Facebook every morning. She called waitresses sweetheart. She told me I was too tender for ugly truths. At the time, I thought she was being protective. Now I understand she was training me. Ethan's sister Lauren was the same way. Pretty sharp, always taking family photos at Thanksgiving, always writing captions like, "No secrets here, just love." Every year I stood smiling in those photos. Every year Toby was next door. Uninvited, unclaimed, unseen. The first paper star appeared in my garden when Toby was 3. I was planting tulips by the wall when something blue slid through a warped gap near the bottom. I looked down and saw a tiny folded star sitting in the dirt. For a second I saw movement through the crack. One gray eye. Small fingers. A child holding his breath. I picked up the star. It was clumsy, soft at the edges, clearly made by little hands. "How cute," I whispered. From the back door, Ethan called Sarah dinner. I turned. Then I heard his voice change. "What's that?" I held it up. "Just something from the neighbor's yard." His face tightened. "Don't touch things from over there. It's just paper. Throw it away." I almost did. But something about that tiny blue star made me pause. So I put it in my gardening basket, then later in a glass bowl by the kitchen window. Ethan saw the bowl that night. "You're keeping trash now." "It's pretty. It's from her yard." "Ethan, it's a paper star." He stared at me until I felt foolish. Then he smiled. That was one of his gifts. He could make a warning look like affection. "Sweetheart," he said, kissing my forehead. "You don't understand how people like Maren work. Little things become big things. Don't encourage it." I should have asked why a child's paper star scared him. I didn't. Over the years, more stars appeared. Yellow, red, green, white, purple, sometimes after rain. Sometimes after Ethan and Maren argued across the wall in low voices I could not quite hear. Sometimes after Toby watched me from the gap and quickly disappeared when I looked back. I collected most of them. I told myself they were pretty. I told myself kids made things and lost them. I told myself a lot of stories. One summer afternoon, I did throw one away. I remember it now because remembering is part of the punishment. It was red. Toby pushed it through the gap while I was pulling weeds. I saw his hand. I saw his face. Then Ethan opened the back door. "Sarah, come inside." His voice was soft, but Toby flinched. That should have told me everything. I picked up the red star, panicked, and tossed it into the yard waste bin. Toby made no sound. He simply pulled his hand back through the gap. I went inside. I made salad. I sat across from Ethan and talked about grocery coupons. That night, I dreamed of a little hand disappearing behind wood. The dream stayed with me for years, but I never gave it a name. Then Maren died. It happened on a Tuesday morning in March. I found out through a neighborhood Facebook post. "Prayers for the family of Maren Doyle. Passed unexpectedly. Services Friday at St. Luke's Cemetery." Unexpectedly. Such a clean word for a messy life. I was sitting at the kitchen island when I saw it. Ethan was pouring coffee. "Maren died," I said. He didn't turn around. "How?" "I don't know. The post doesn't say." He stirred his coffee slowly. "Well, he said that's sad." But his voice did not sound sad. It sounded finished, like someone had closed a drawer. "I think I should go to the funeral." That made him turn. "Why?" "She was our neighbor for 7 years. She harassed us for 7 years. Ethan, she's dead. And you're still letting her pull you in." I stared at him. Something about the sentence felt wrong. Dead women cannot pull. Only living guilt does that. "I'm going," I said. His face hardened. "Sarah." For 10 years that tone had worked. Not because it was loud, Because it carried history. Every argument I had lost, every concern I had swallowed, every time he made me feel unreasonable for having instincts. This time I picked up my purse. I'm going. He stood very still. Then he smiled. Fine, go feel sorry for her, but don't bring her drama back into this house. At the funeral, there were only 6 people, a tired pastor, 2 women from the diner, a neighbor I had seen but never spoken to, an older woman in a navy coat, Toby, and me. No flowers from Ethan's family, no relatives crying, no line of mourners, just wet grass, a gray sky, and a little boy standing beside a cheap casket with his hands folded so tightly his knuckles had gone pale. The pastor said Marin had been a devoted mother. One of the diner women cried into a tissue. Toby did not cry. He stared at me, not accusing, not angry, waiting. When the service ended, the woman in the navy coat approached. Mrs. Cole. Yes. My name is Elaine Brooks. I was Marin's friend. She asked me to give you something if you came. If, not when. If. Elaine handed me an old Christmas cookie tin with faded bells on the lid. Across the top on masking tape was my name, Sarah Cole. Please read alone. Then Toby stepped forward. He held out a folded paper star. Blue. Careful. Beautiful. I opened my hand. He placed it in my palm like it was something fragile and alive. Inside were 6 words. My mom said you'd see me. My throat closed. Toby, I whispered. His eyes filled. Then he stepped behind Elaine's coat. I wanted to kneel. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to say I had seen the stars, I had kept them, I had wondered, I had been afraid. But for 7 years, silence had been my habit. And habits can look a lot like character if you practice them long enough. So I stood there in the rain, holding the star, ashamed of every year I had not crossed the yard. When I got home, Ethan was in the kitchen. He glanced at the cookie tin first, then the star. His expression changed. Not sadness, not confusion, fear. It flashed across his face so quickly another woman might have missed it. But grief had made me sharp. What is that? He asked. Toby gave it to me. His jaw tightened. Throw it away. He's a child. He's Marin's child. Why does a paper star scare you? His eyes narrowed. Don't talk to me like that. Then answer me. He stepped closer. Sarah listened carefully. That woman spent years trying to get inside our life. Now she's using her kid to do it after death. Don't be naive. I looked at the blue star, then at my husband. For the first time, the star looked honest and Ethan looked rehearsed. I'm going upstairs, I said. Leave the tin. Number. He stared at me. I walked past him. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped it. That night I waited until Ethan fell asleep. At 1:18 a.m., I sat alone at the kitchen table and opened Marin's cookie tin. Inside were 7 envelopes, a small stack of photographs, a flash drive, and 1 letter. The first line was simple. Dear Sarah, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and you finally came close enough to hear me. I pressed my hand to my mouth. Then I read, I know what Ethan told you about me. I know he said I was unstable, jealous, obsessed, dangerous. I know he said I followed him and threatened your marriage. I know he made you afraid of me. I am not writing this to punish you. I am writing this because my son deserves to be seen by someone in that house. My breathing changed. Slow. Careful. The way people breathe before disaster. Toby is Ethan's son. The kitchen clock clicked. The refrigerator hummed. Rain tapped against the window. I read the sentence again. Toby is Ethan's son. I did not cry at first. Shock can be strangely quiet. It sits down beside you and waits for your body to catch up. Marin wrote that she met Ethan 9 years earlier before our wedding, when he handled a minor insurance issue after a kitchen fire at the diner where she worked. He was kind, helpful, attentive. He brought her coffee when she worked double shifts. He fixed her car battery once. He told her he felt seen by her. Then she got pregnant. At first he promised to help. Then he disappeared. 3 months later, she saw our wedding photos on Facebook. I remembered posting those photos. Me in my lace dress. Ethan crying at the altar. My father, thin from cancer, walking me down the aisle with a smile that broke my heart even then. The caption I wrote was, I married my best friend today. Marin had seen that. Pregnant. Alone. Watching the father of her child marry me under string lights. I bent over the table. A sound came out of me. Not a sob. Something smaller. Something crushed. The letter continued. When Toby was born, Ethan came to my apartment. not to hold him, not to ask if I was okay. He brought cash in an envelope and said if I loved my son, I would keep quiet. I told him I did not want hush money. I wanted Toby to have a father. 2 weeks later, he started telling people I was dangerous. I opened the first envelope. Photographs. Ethan standing in Marin's old apartment holding newborn Toby awkwardly against his chest. Ethan in a diner booth across from Marin, his hand over hers. Toby at 1-year-old staring through the unfinished cedar wall. There was no doubt. The same eyes, the same mouth, the same little crease between the eyebrows that Ethan got when he was pretending not to be angry. Toby was his son. The boy I had been warned away from was not a threat to my marriage. He was proof of Ethan's cowardice. I opened the second envelope. The fencing receipt, $21,386.42. Paid from my personal savings, my father's money. At the bottom was my signature. Marin had written one note across a sticky tab. You paid for every board that hid him, but you did not know. That is why I am telling you now. I covered my face, because she was kinder than I deserved. I had paid for the wall. I had apologized for the wall. I had stood in my safe kitchen admiring the privacy, while a child on the other side learned his father could erase him with cedar planks and a check. The third envelope was labeled, The Stars. My heart already knew. My hands opened it anyway. Toby started folding paper stars when he was 3. His therapist said it helped when words felt too heavy. At first, he made them for me. Then he saw you planting tulips by the wall. He asked your name by pointing to your house and tapping his heart. I told him your name was Sarah. After that, the stars were for you. I stood up so fast the chair nearly fell. The glass bowl by this kitchen window was still there. 36 paper stars. Blue, yellow, green, white, purple. I carried the bowl back to the table like it was sacred. One by one, I opened them. Some had tiny words. Hi, rain today. Pretty flowers. I like yellow. Are you nice? Then I found one blue star folded tighter than the rest. Inside it said, Dad looked at me today. I pressed the paper to my lips and cried. Not loudly. Ethan was upstairs. Even after learning the truth, I was still trained not to wake the man who had broken us all. Then I read the line that made me want to crawl out of my own skin. There was one red star you threw away. The room seemed to tilt. Toby saw you do it. He did not speak for 2 days after that. He thought you were angry with him. I told him you were scared, not cruel. I hope I was right. I remembered. The red star. The yard waste bin. Ethan calling me inside. Toby's hand vanishing behind the wall. I had thrown away a child's hope because my husband taught me to be afraid of it. I wanted to hate myself. But Marin's next line stopped me. Sarah, guilt can become another wall if you hide behind it. Don't use guilt to avoid doing the right thing now. I read that sentence 3 times. Then I opened the 4th envelope. Text messages. Screenshots from Ethan. Stop asking me to meet him. He has food, doesn't he? You chose to have him. If Sarah finds out, I'll tell everyone you're unstable. My mother agrees you need boundaries. That boy is not my family. That boy, his son. An 8-year-old who folded stars because words felt unsafe. I opened the 5th envelope. This one was about Diane, Ethan's mother. 3 weeks before I got sick, Diane came to my house. She brought a casserole like women do when they want cruelty to smell homemade. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Then I kept reading. She told me good mothers do not destroy families. I told her Toby was Ethan's family. She said a child born from a mistake does not get to rewrite our lives. My chest tightened. She said Sarah was too fragile for the truth. She said Ethan had worked too hard to become respected in this town. She said if I loved Toby, I would stop trying to make people hate his father. Then she looked at Toby's drawings on the fridge and said, That boy has made enough trouble for this family. I whispered no, but the letter did not stop. Sarah, they know. Diane knows. Lauren knows. Maybe they do not know every detail, but they know Toby exists. They know Ethan is his father. They know you do not know. Every Christmas, every birthday dinner, every family photo where they smiled beside you, they were smiling around a lie. I thought of Thanksgiving. Diane squeezing my hand and saying, We are so blessed to have no secrets at this table. Lauren posting photos. Ethan kissing my cheek. Me smiling like a woman who belonged. All those years I had not been family. I had been cover. The 6th envelope had no screenshots. No receipts, No proof, just Marin's handwriting. I am sick, Sarah. Sicker than I told people. I stretched medication too long. I skipped appointments. I chose groceries over copays because Toby eats before I breathe. Last month I told Ethan I was done being quiet. I told him if he would not tell you, I would. He said, no one will believe a tired waitress over me. Maybe he was right, but maybe you will. I sat frozen. The words looked tired. Even the handwriting seemed weaker. If I die before I can tell you, please do not let Toby think the wall was his fault. He already believes silence makes people leave. Please do not become one more person who disappears when he reaches out. The last envelope was addressed in Toby's handwriting. Uneven letters. Large. Careful. For Sarah when Mom goes to heaven. Inside was a drawing. 2 houses. A tall brown wall. A woman on one side. A boy on the other. Above them, paper stars floated like a bridge. Under the drawing were 4 words. Please don't hate me. I folded over the table. That little boy thought I hated him, not ignored him, not misunderstood him, hated him, because that is what silence feels like to a child. By sunrise, I had read everything twice. At 6:42 a.m., Ethan came downstairs in his pressed blue shirt, already dressed for work, ordinary as a man could be. Then he saw the table, the photographs, the stars, the letters, the receipt, Toby's drawing. His expression did not break. That was the most terrifying part. He looked at the table, then at me, and said, so she finally got what she wanted. Not, that isn't true. Not, I can explain. Not, I'm sorry. Just that. I stood slowly. Toby is your son. Ethan poured coffee. Biologically. The word hit like a slap. Biologically. Don't do that! Do what? Act like one mistake before our marriage cancels 10 years of me taking care of you. I laughed once. It sounded strange in that kitchen. You built a wall around your child. I protected my life. He was a baby. He was a complication. I stared at him. For a moment, I could not find language ugly enough for what he had just said. Ethan leaned against the counter. You think life is some movie where every mistake becomes a beautiful blended family. I was building something, Sarah. A career, a reputation, a future. I wasn't going to let a diner waitress and a kid who barely talks turn me into a neighborhood scandal. There he was, the real Ethan, not hidden, not ashamed, just inconvenienced. And your mother knew. His jaw tightened. My mother protected this family. She helped you hide a child. She understood stakes. What about me? He blinked. I stepped closer. What was I, Ethan, your wife? Or the woman with the savings account and the clean reputation? He set down his mug. Careful. That word again. The leash word. The word he used when I was getting too close to myself. For 10 years it had worked. That morning it didn't. No, I said. You be careful. His face changed. You're emotional. I am. You're not thinking clearly. I am thinking clearly for the first time in years. He smiled then. Small. Cruel. People will believe me, Sarah. They always believe the calm one. I looked at the paper stars spread across the table, then back at him. Then I'll become calmer than you. His smile faded. I pointed toward the door. Get out. This is my house. My father paid for the down payment. My father paid for that wall. My father's money helped you look like a man you never were. Get out before I start saying everything loud enough for Mrs. Alvarez to hear through the window. He stared at me. I held his gaze. After a long moment, he grabbed his keys. At the door, he turned. You'll come to your senses. No, I said. I think I just found them. He left. The house did not feel peaceful after he was gone. It felt awake, like the rooms were waiting to see what kind of woman I would become now that the story had changed. At 8:15, Diane called. I let it ring, then Lauren, then Diane again, then Ethan, then a text from Diane. This family does not need another scene. Come to Sunday lunch. We will discuss this like adults. A month earlier, that message would have made my stomach twist with obedience. This time I replied, I'll come. Sunday lunch at Diana's house had always felt like a performance. White tablecloth, roast chicken, lemon candles, framed family portraits on the wall. Everyone assigned a role before they arrived. Diane was the wise mother. Lauren was the loyal daughter. Ethan was the wounded hero. I was the emotional wife who needed guidance. When I walked in carrying a glass bowl full of paper stars, the conversation stopped. Ethan sat at the far end of the table in a gray sweater, looking tired in a way I knew was deliberate. Diane had probably told him to look humble. Lauren wouldn't meet my eyes. Diane smiled. "Sarah, honey, sit down. I'll stand." Diane's smile thinned. "We are not your enemies." "No. Enemies are usually honest about being against you." Lauren scoffed. "Seriously." I placed the glass bowl in the center of the table. 36 stars. Small, colorful, devastating. Diane looked at them with disgust disguised as confusion. "What is this?" "These are gifts Toby made for me for 5 years." Ethan exhaled sharply. "Sarah." I held up one hand. "No. You taught me silence. Marin taught me truth. I'm choosing her lesson now." Diane's face hardened. "Do not bring that woman's name into my house. That woman raised your grandson alone while your son mowed his lawn 10 feet away." Lauren whispered, "Oh my God." I looked at her. "You knew." She looked down. "That was enough." Diane folded her hands. "A child born from a mistake does not get to destroy a family." The room went still. There it was. The sentence Marin had written. Hearing it out loud made something in me go cold and clean. "No," I said. "But a family that hides a child was already destroyed." Diane's face flushed. "You always were too fragile for hard truths." "No," I said. "You protected Ethan from consequences and called it protecting me. You used my kindness as a curtain." Ethan stood. "That's enough." I reached into my purse and placed the photograph on the table. Ethan holding baby Toby. Diane looked away first. Lauren covered her mouth. I said, "For 7 years you all let me smile in family photos while that little boy lived behind a wall. You let me spend my father's money to hide him. You let Marin be called crazy because the truth would embarrass Ethan." Ethan's voice dropped. "You're humiliating yourself." I looked around the room. "No, I'm returning the humiliation to the people who earned it." Then I picked up the bowl. At the door, Diane said, "If you walk out now, don't expect to be welcomed back." I turned. For years, that would have terrified me. Not being welcomed, not being chosen, not being included. But something had changed. "You never welcomed me," I said. "You used me." I left before dessert. By the time I got home, Diane had posted on Facebook, "Families survive storms when they stay united. Pray for us during this confusing time." Confusing. That was the word she chose for a dead mother, a hidden child, and 7 years of lies. I stared at the post for a long time. Then I commented, "Some storms are not sent to test families. Some are created by people who think silence will protect them." Within minutes, my phone lit up. Lauren texted, "Take that down. Mom is crying." I replied, "Marin's son cried silently for 7 years. Your mother will survive a comment." After that, the neighborhood began to talk. At first quietly, then openly. Mrs. Alvarez from across the street came over with banana bread and tears in her eyes. "I knew something was wrong," she said. "But Ethan always sounded so reasonable." That sentence haunted me. Because that was how men like Ethan survive. They do not need everyone to believe them completely. They only need everyone to doubt the woman enough. One neighbor admitted Ethan had told him Marin threatened me. Another said Diane once warned the church women not to visit Marin because she was mentally unstable. One of Marin's co-workers messaged me, "She never hated you. She used to say Sarah doesn't know." I can't blame her for what she doesn't know. I cried when I read that. Anger would have been easier. Marin's grace was a heavier thing to carry. 2 weeks after the funeral, I called a contractor. Not to build, to tear down. Saturday morning, 3 men arrived with glove saws, pry bars, and a dumpster. At 8:03, the first saw cut into the cedar wall. At 8:11, Ethan's truck flew into the driveway. He got out furious. "What do you think you're doing?" I stood in the grass wearing jeans and my father's old flannel shirt, tearing it down. "You can't just remove a boundary." "It's on my property, I checked." His eyes narrowed. "Now you check things." "Yes." Neighbors began stepping onto porches. Curtains moved. Garage doors opened. Ethan noticed the audience and lowered his voice. "Sarah, don't perform strength. It doesn't suit you." A month earlier, that would have cut me. That morning, it sounded desperate. "What doesn't suit me," I said, "is living behind a wall built from lies." The contractor paused. I nodded for him to continue. The first panel cracked loose. Behind it, a strip of Marin's yard appeared. Weeds, mud, a child's faded plastic shovel, a broken pinwheel. Ethan stepped closer. You think taking in that boy makes you noble? The saw stopped. The neighbors heard him. Ethan was too angry to care. He is damaged, Sarah. Quiet kids like that don't become normal because lonely women need a cause. Mrs. Alvarez stepped off her porch. She was 70 years old, 5 feet tall, and carried herself like a woman who had raised 4 sons and buried 1 husband. Shame on you, she said. Ethan turned. Excuse me? You heard me. More neighbors came out. For 7 years, Ethan had controlled the story because no one challenged the narrator. Now the audience had gathered, and he was revealing himself without help. I looked at the contractor. Please keep going. The second panel fell. Then the third. With every board, Marin's yard became more visible. Her crooked flower boxes, the porch steps Toby had sat on, the little patch of dirt near the wall where he must have folded stars and waited. Near the base of one post, hundreds of tiny paper scraps were caught in the weeds. Failed stars, practice stars, pieces of a child's hope. Ethan saw them too. For 1 second, I searched his face for guilt. I found irritation. That was when I stopped looking for the man I thought I married. He had never existed. The final panel came down just after 10. For the first time in 7 years, the 2 yards were open to each other. No wall, no gap, no forbidden line, just grass and sunlight. I thought I would feel victorious. Instead, I felt grief, because the wall came down in one morning. But Toby had spent most of his childhood behind it. Some things can be repaired, not erased. The next day, Elaine brought Toby. He arrived with 1 backpack, 2 cardboard boxes, and a stuffed fox missing 1 eye. He stood at the edge of the driveway, staring at the open yard. His face was unreadable. Children who have been disappointed too often do not trust miracles quickly. I knelt beside him, leaving space. You can look, I said. You don't have to cross until you want to. He stared at the yard, then at me, then back at the place where the wall used to be. 1 step, then another. Then he stopped. His toes touched the line where the cedar posts had been. He looked at me as if asking permission to exist on the other side. I swallowed hard. It's okay, I said. This yard was never supposed to be a prison. His face changed. Not a smile. Not yet. Something smaller. A door opening. He stepped across. Then he ran. Not fast. Not like a happy child in a commercial. He ran like his body was learning freedom from scratch. Halfway across the yard, he stopped, turned in a circle, and lifted both arms. Measuring space. Testing air. I turned away so he would not see me cry. That night, Toby slept in the guest room. I left the hallway light on. At 2:14 a.m., I heard a soft sound and found him standing outside my bedroom door holding the one-eyed fox. Bad dream, I whispered. He nodded. You can sit in the chair if you want, or I can walk you back. He pointed to the chair. I brought him a blanket. He curled up there watching me with tired eyes. After a long silence, he whispered, Mom said you were kind. His voice was rough, like the words had traveled a long way. I sat very still. She was kind too, I said. He nodded. Then he fell asleep. The next morning, I burned the first 2 pancakes and got the 3rd batch right. Toby ate 4. After breakfast, he drew a picture of 2 houses with no wall between them. 1 sun, 1 tree, 2 people standing in the grass. He slid it across the table. I put it on the refrigerator. Not in a drawer, not in a bowl, not where forgotten things go. On the refrigerator, at eye level, where family art belongs. A month later, Ethan came back, not to apologize, to negotiate. He arrived wearing his best gray suit and carrying yellow tulips from the grocery store. My favorite. The old Sarah would have noticed the flowers. The new Sarah noticed the clearance sticker still on the plastic wrap. Toby was at school. I opened the door but did not invite Ethan in. I've been thinking, he said. That must be uncomfortable. His mouth tightened. I deserved that. You deserved worse. He looked past me into the house. I see you've made changes. Toby likes the blue curtains. At Toby's name, his face hardened before he could hide it. Sarah, this has gone too far. My mother won't leave the house. Lauren says people at church are whispering. My boss asked me if everything was okay. Do you understand what you're doing to me? I almost smiled. There it was. Not regret. Not grief. Consequences. Marin is dead, he continued. Nothing changes that. But we can still fix this. You and me. We can move. Start over somewhere no one knows the story. What about Toby? Ethan exhaled like I had mentioned a broken appliance. He can be placed with people trained for that kind of thing. That kind of thing? Trauma, special needs, whatever they call it. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I did not want his voice entering the home Toby was beginning to feel safe in. You still don't understand, I said. I understand you're lonely and guilty and trying to make meaning out of a tragedy. No, I'm trying to repair a small piece of what you broke. His eyes sharpened. Don't act superior, you ignored him too. The words landed, because they were true, and because he expected truth to make me collapse. I let it stand. Yes, I said, I did. He blinked. I ignored him. I believed you. I helped build that wall. I collected his stars and never asked who made them. I failed him. For half a second, Ethan looked satisfied. Then I continued. But here's the difference between us. I can say that and let it change me. You only say it to drag me back into shame so you don't have to feel any. His satisfaction disappeared. You're not strong enough for this. You keep saying that because you need it to be true. He will need more than pancakes and refrigerator drawings. I know. He will have therapy school meetings, nightmares, questions about his mother, questions about me. I know. You'll get tired. I know. When people stop praising you, you'll resent him. I looked at the man I had once loved. Or maybe only the man he had performed. No, I said. I may get tired, I may get scared, I may make mistakes, but I will not resent a child for needing what every child deserves. And what is that? To be seen. For once, Ethan had no answer. I handed him the yellow tulips. Take these to your mother, I said. She likes pretending dead things are decoration. His face twisted. Then he left. 6 months later, Toby and I stood in the backyard under the maple tree. It was September. The air smelled like cut grass and school pencils. He had started speaking more by then. Not always. Not when adults pushed. But when he felt safe, words came slowly like shy birds. We hung paper stars from the branches with fishing line. Blue for sad days. Yellow for brave days. White for Marin. Green for my father, whom Toby called the man whose money brought the wall down. I told him Dad would have liked him. I told him Dad believed money should help people stand. Toby thought about that for a long time. Then he folded a green star and wrote inside. It did. He was right. My father's money had built the wall, but it also brought it down. Not because money fixes harm. It doesn't. But because truth can take something stolen and turn it toward repair. People sometimes ask if taking Toby in was my revenge. It wasn't. Revenge would have been spending my life trying to destroy Ethan. But Ethan had already destroyed the only parts of his life that mattered. Trust, respect, family. His perfect image cracked the moment people saw what stood behind it. The man who cared so much about being admired became the man neighbors avoided at the grocery store. The mother who preached loyalty became the woman people stopped asking to lead church charity drives. The sister who posted perfect family photos deleted half her albums. Their punishment was not dramatic. It was ordinary, and maybe that made it worse. They had to live in the same town under the same polite smiles, knowing everyone had finally heard the child they helped silence. But what I chose was not revenge. It was repair. It was school lunches with notes inside. It was speech therapy on Tuesdays. It was sitting on the floor during nightmares because sometimes Toby did not want to be touched, only accompanied. It was learning that silence is not emptiness. It was putting every drawing on the refrigerator. It was visiting Marin's grave every Sunday with grocery store flowers because she deserved more than rain and strangers. One afternoon, Toby placed a white paper star against her headstone. Then he whispered, "She sees me too." I turned away and cried. Not from sadness only. From gratitude. From shame, from love, from the terrible beauty of a child still willing to trust the world after the world failed him. I do not know if Ethan ever felt sorry. I do not know if Diane ever admitted what she knew. I do not know what story the Cole family tells now. Maybe they say I lost my mind. Maybe they say Marin manipulated me. Maybe they say I broke a family apart. People who survive on lies rarely retire from storytelling, but I know the truth. A family is not the people who demand your silence so their image stays clean. A family is not the people who smile beside you in photos while hiding a child behind a wall. A family is not blood without responsibility, and love without respect is just another kind of prison. Marin left behind paper stars because she had no power, no money, and no audience. Only truth. Only a son. Only the hope that one day someone on the other side of the wall would finally stop looking away. It took me 7 years. 37 paper stars, one dead mother's courage, and one little boy asking, "Can you see me now?" But the wall came down. And when it did, I learned something I will carry for the rest of my life. Dignity is not what people give you when they approve of you. Dignity is what you keep when they try to use your goodness against you. Self-worth is not being chosen by a family that needs you quiet. Self-worth is walking away from the table where your silence was the price of belonging. And legacy is not money houses' names or family photos. Legacy is what you protect when nobody is clapping. My husband built a wall to hide his shame. Marin left stars to guide me through it. And Toby taught me that sometimes family is not the people who share your last name. It is the people who finally open the gate. So tell me in the comments, if you found out your husband and his whole family had hidden a child from you for 7 years, what would you do? Would you walk away from all of them? Or would you stay for the one person who had been waiting behind the wall the entire time?